Welcome, welcome. So as promised, my first day since you first emailed me Monday, where I've had time to record a reading, is now. So let me scratch my beard. Just at that length where it's about to start getting uncomfortable, but it's not quite there. All right. Anyways, so I have everything pulled up over here. I'm actually gonna hide your name. Yeah. Okay. All right. So with your emails, one of the things for me is I really don't want to know anything about any of my clients beforehand, of course, but what I obviously like what someone wants me to focus on, that's really important. So when I was reading one of your emails, I was really trying to like kind of not skip past, but just like not like I don't like to really get clues. I like to go in completely objectively, and it allows me to give somewhat of an, just yeah, like even photos, like I really try to know nothing, to see nothing. But I'm very good at like deleting things from my mind. But really, yeah. So you're going through a tough time. Um, you know, a lot of us are. It's been really difficult, especially this Scorpio season. So I just want to normalize that for you. And even right now, I think in the next few days, we're going to feel a little bit of the pressure taken off as Saturn and the sun, as the sun moves further away from that square of Saturn. But regardless, we're in a really tough spiritual time for intuitive people. So with Saturn and Pisces, Saturn, it moves fast, but it hits hard. And Pisces being the sign of intuition, what it's doing, it's making it very difficult. It's a planet, it's a restrictive planet, Saturn. So, it's made it quite difficult for people who rely on their intuition a lot and who are more spiritually minded to access those parts. So, if your life, for example, throughout your life, you've gotten to this flow state in your daily life, really based on spirituality, based on your intuition, it's a very difficult time for, yeah, for more, I guess you could say, abstract minded people. And especially with a 12th house moon like yourself in whole sign. So I use whole sign. I like to go back and forth between the two systems a little bit. I used to use basically Plastis Coach. It's like very similar. But yeah, so I do like to kind of give both both takes. Because in your chart there's a lot that shifts from the system. But anyways, um, I'm almost tempted to try a Placidus to do a Placidus reading. It's been so long. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I want to pull it up because it is a lot different. But either way, I always end up at the same conclusion. I have very, very good results with full signs. So, yeah, I just pulled it up with Placidus. So yeah. Um, so yeah, as I said, I understand, and I'm gonna give you a little bit, what I don't do for anyone. Usually, I'll kind of you know give a glimpse into current astrology, and that is a separate reading because I focus, I have such a focus in my natal readings, which people, yeah, usually they book reading, and then the follow up in current astrology, they have that together. So you're obviously welcome to do that, but I understand that this was the priority for you, was to really get this fast. So I applaud you for, um, for reaching out, and I'm happy we could make it happen. So, yeah, so where do I want to start? I'm sorry if my eyes are a little bit twitchy. It's like been like this for a while with the brightness of my screen. Um, but yeah, so I actually want to go back really quickly. So, um, to your emails. Yeah, so you're talking about 10 months of darkness. Yeah, so yeah, like I just said with the Saturn Pisces, um, difficulty getting over the next partner. Um, I'm just reading. And then yeah, so Gemini, mom, difficulty. Yeah, so this is very, very, once again, as someone that speaks to many people and that has a very good sense of the zeitgeist internationally, um, based on my intuition, my downloads, and just, also very logical, talking to people, hearing their experiences. you know this is a time right now where we're between two worlds, and on one, like, we have these major planetary shifts that that are starting in August of 2025 for everyone, right? And it's unprecedented because every outer planet is changing signs. So 2024, and now, just as a collective, is really, there's a lot of purging going on. I think Saturn Pisces is revealing, it's really pushing a lot of people to really, it's the planet of karma. So it's really pushing a lot of people to look at areas of themselves in a very honest way that they may have pushed aside for a while, right? Um, so so yeah, so as I said, the natal is what we're doing. And I'll look and see if I see anything like that's very, very telling. But overall, just being in whole sign, 12th house moon and Placidus 11th, that creates someone who is very in tuned with the psychic energies, with the collective energies. Esme, no, stay next to me unless you want to help me. No, stay right here. Stay right here. Too heavy. So, it can really create, and you have that Jupiter Neptune conjunction natally, so it can really create um this feeling, really feeling the collective pain and suffering and everything happening in the world, right? Now, I'm gonna pull. Okay, so being a Pisces also, so I think that you probably know this, but you're a 2-degree Pisces sun, and you have set like that. Sometimes when you look at current astrology, you can go into so many details, right? But sometimes it's the most obvious thing, the fact that Saturn is on your sun, right? Um, so being a Pisces, as I said, whether you want to look at your moon as 12th house or 11th house, you're still a Pisces sun, like myself, right? The difference is that you're 2 degrees, I'm 28 degrees. So I'm not feeling this like you are. So Saturn is right there. Stop, Esme. Don't scratch me. Stop. Bad. Good. Um, it's right there on your sun. So this, so Saturn, it hits hard. It moves a lot faster than Pluto and Neptune and Uranus, which is good, but the lessons are often very difficult, right? Um, so when this happens, a lot of karma comes up, um, and it really can feel very restrictive, especially, like I said, like you're feeling this Saturn and Pisces like more like you are at the crux of this, right? On a personal level. Like even people without this energy in their chart are feeling it. So the fact that's hitting your sun, your identity, like this is big, big time. This is like essentially everything, right? And it, you know, Saturn on Sun, Esme, no, not right now. It can be very stressful. It can bring a lot, it really makes people have to work very, very hard. And it makes it more difficult. Like especially as a Pisces, spirituality is so it's so it's such a big part of your identity, and there's a fluidity to your identity. Having Saturn, which yes, it does rule your moon in Capricorn, so there is some understanding innately of that energy. Um, it doesn't make it fun because when we talk about Capricorn, and I love that, my favorite artist in the world is a Pisces moon, Capricorn sun. So I love that combination. I feel like it creates the builder Capricorn with the dreamer Pisces. So I've really seen like a lot of incredible clients and people like Armin van Buren, my favorite musician, who have this, and it's amazing. But what's happening now is that if we think about your sun, your moon is your the two sides of you, right? So you've got this Pisces side that's very dreamy, that is mutable water, so it's kind of chameleon energy. It's very, very intuitive, and it strives to live a life based more on spiritual essence and spiritual flow, right? So then Capricorn is a lot more structured, right? And it is, ruled by Saturn. So there is a level of hard work and, um, you know, there's a need to really be moving forward, right? For a Capricorn moon. And Saturn, when it goes on the sun, especially in Pisces, it can create a whole lot of spiritual restrictions, and it can really freeze one, right? It can make one feel very, very, very frozen, and almost like there's all these new responsibilities, and there's just like this heaviness blocking this part of you that was so that's for your life, that's been so prominent, right? Because when we have our sun or moon, we have to understand, me, for example, I don't like to talk about myself, but just a very obvious example, I have the Pisces and Sagittarius. So if I'm not feeding both of them, um, it can lead to an imbalance, right? So um, right now you're very, very much in this Saturnian Capricornian energy. And what Saturn will do is that it will really test your personal power and your ability to um, what, especially, yeah, just in different ways. It's making you prove yourself, and different challenges are coming up, and because it's Pisces, it's going to be at the more subtle level, right? It's going to be at the more subtle, um hidden level, and it's not easy, right? So yeah, you really have to work and earn, really, really earn your stripes during this transit. Lots of extra burdens, lots of stuff that comes up that's never easy. The thing is that it's not gonna be there. Yeah, so I mean, like by December, like on Christmas, Saturn's gonna be exactly on your sun, right? Because it's been in this weird retrograde place, so you've really, really been feeling this. Um, the whole cycle itself, if we look at it for you, right? Um, so around March, which does that, yeah, March, even February, right? That is of this year, which is, it's not 10 months, but even before then, you're before a major transit like that comes, it's not like it's, even probably, yeah, it could, like, start of the year, you start to feel that transit coming in, maybe February. Um, yeah, and then March is when it goes, it's around your sun, and then April, May, it moves, up, so to 4 to 6 degrees. June 7. So it's still there. It's still conjunct your sun, but the intensity isn't as crazy, right? So you get this feeling of, okay, maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's eased off a little bit, right? Maybe it's a little bit, it's getting a little bit better. Well, then it retrogrades, right? It retrograde um in June, right? And then it's going back. So by August, it's it's getting closer and closer to your sun. You're feeling this charge even more. Now by September, I have September 24th because I'm just doing it in 1 month intervals. It's so we could say like mid-September, it's right back on your sun. So, and it's retrograde. So when it goes over the second time, that charge, it's when we have a Saturn transit, sometimes it just goes over once and then it doesn't go over again. When it goes over multiple times, it means that we're really meant to learn that lesson, like, more. Like there's a it's meant to, synchronistically, it's meant for us to have that effect longer. So yeah. And then we continue, just the fact of, like, October, November, right? Like even right now, and just in these months, it's retrograded back into Aquarius, and now it's come back into Pisces, right? So it's been in this bizarre zone for the whole year, where it's been in orb of your sun, and now we're getting back to the point, which makes sense why you're, feeling the way you're feeling, where it is, gonna, it's back direct. So you probably felt when it went direct, a lot, quite heavily, and which was very recent, and it's just going to continue. So yeah, in December, but yeah, like I said, it moves fast, right? So December will be, when it goes over the last time, right around Christmas. But then even in January and February, it's at 5, so it's past it. And by March, it's already at 12. You see, so it's like, it's kind of like been like, and then it's like off to the races. That's how Saturn is. So, and let's see, April, yeah, and by April, it's already at 16. So you've really created some distance. Now, yeah, so we can, yeah, if you want to do a current astrology reading, let me know. We can really look ahead, forecast wise, into the future. But just in terms of Saturn on your sun, just, yeah, I mean, you got a few more months of it, and right now is kind of like this real kind of, and I know how you're, I know the feeling, right? It's like I've been through like, how much longer, like, it's like you think it's getting better, and because the transit, for this whole year, it's been kind of, going up and down in terms of how close it is to your sun. um it gets very frustrating when you're like, shit, like, is it gonna, does this, like, why is it not linear, the healing? Why is it so up and down, right? But what I'm telling you is that, you know December is, yeah, like, by Christmas, that's the highest charge. And I'd say even, you know heading into next year, for sure, you know like even by like mid-February-ish, for example. And a lot of times when these transits end, it's the effect wears off, like the orb isn't so far in the back end. So, I would say it's impossible to tell, like, okay, you're gonna, by this date you're gonna feel better, but the charge is gonna be a lot less by, say, end of January, and by the time it's March, like it's done. It's 13 degrees past your sun. You've completed it. But yeah, you, like, with these trans, a lot of times it's like I always say it's like a test. So it's like, if you've studied for the test all semester, you're going to have a lot easier of a time than if you haven't, right? And but when the third one hits around Christmas, um that's, that's the finale, right? So a lot of times people with these transits, they have an easier time, with the endings. But with Saturn, I feel like it can be a little bit different. Um, it can be a little bit different. Because it just really depends on the work you put in. But it really is asking you for endurance, and that's what it is. So, and the fact that it's in your first house is about identity, and also it shows that Saturn was transiting through your 12th house. So you've really had this for, the last few years. Saturn through the 12th house is often, it can be a magical time, but it can also be very difficult and bring back a lot of fears and phobias, and it can also sort of have that inhibiting effect, right? So there could be this feeling you might be having, for like, it's like a marathon where you're just like, how long does this shit have to go? But what I'm telling you is it's gonna be getting a lot easier, and the rewards are gonna be great. Um, and yeah, so yeah, so that's kind of, you know obviously really really key, very very important. Now, looking at your chart, you have your north node right on your ascendant, which is very interesting. I always, when I see that, in the sign of Pisces, I think of just the idea of, um, this lifetime it's a huge, it's very very key for you to form this spiritual. Well, it's an Aquarius, excuse me, but regardless, right? It's around the ascendant in Aquarius, so it's with Mercury. So you're really here to form this relationship with yourself, where you're in your very, it's the whole process of individualization, right? Um, and me and you, we actually have the same nodes, and we're born. I'm born in 1990, right? So it's interesting. I'm also a South Node Leo, North Node Aquarius, so I know it very well. And it can be frustrating because, as a South Node Leo, there is that tendency to be that innate feeling of like stardom, or, you know, um, just this. It really really makes us in this lifetime have to kind of temper our ego in a sense. I always say it's going away from the we, or going away from the me towards the we. So yeah, Aquarius. But yeah, just having it right there. I always think of a South Node on the descendant as someone who has based too much of their identity in past incarnations on relationships, right? And with Mercury opposing it in Aquarius, your own authentic voice, that voice that comes from you, right? It's your voice. It's not anyone else's. It's that authentic self, right? That has been held back. So in this life, it's a big, big lesson for you to be able to build a very strong personal identity where you're not define yourself based on other people. And there can be, a lot of times with the 7th house south node, right? Because that's what we know best is our south node. We're trying to move towards that north node, which is like the metaphoric mountain never climbed before. There can be issues with codependency, right? And so the person often can, really, really just, be someone that's like a serial dater that can feel a little bit uneased when they're not in relationships. And it really is about you being the pioneer of your own life, right? Um, and not like in Aquarius, it's also really about not caring so much about other people's opinions, right? You're not gonna please everyone. You're, being Mercury in Aquarius is someone who thinks outside the box. They have these ideas that are not going to be with the mainstream, right? So, that's really, good and very important to look at is, what effect when I allow myself to be my authentic self and other people disagree, how do I take that? That's one of the big karmic lessons, right? Um, so yeah, there can be a tendency, yeah, to like prioritize someone else's feelings. Um, and it's really about moving towards just being good. Like it's not asking you to not um have relationships. It's just to have relationships maybe that are more nuanced in the sense that, they're, for example, like a lot of people like myself, I don't like I have a lot of Aquarius placements, like I don't share a bedroom, right? I never have, never will. Um, I believe in space and relationships, and that's a very Aquarian thing. Um, and sometimes people with this, yeah, they can really crawl back into relationships that are not serving them because there can be like this fear of letting go and different abandonment issues, right? And clinginess. So like a big thing I've seen with this too is that there can be feelings of, especially with the transit you have of Saturn on your sun, you know, there can be this sort of feeling of worthlessness. And Saturn on your sun also, I think it's trying to get you to define your life purpose in a new way. Um, and what may have worked for you before might not be working for you now, right? And um so with your partnership that didn't work out, a lot of times people with this placement are meant to go through these karmic relationships, and they the way that they respond to how when they end is really, really important, right? So your identity, um having your own purpose, your own mission, whatever that is, um to where you don't need that other person to represent your fulfillment. And if that's something that you've already, done good work on, then that means that you're headed towards your north node and that you're doing a good job. And we always waver back and forth. It's not like this thing where we're just there and killing it, right? Um, but just knowing that your ability to be an individual was suppressed in past lives. Um, the whole idea of, you know, the relationship couple that does everything together, and they kind of just become one, right? So then it becomes hard to know who you are. So yeah, so really self-reliance and self-confidence is something that has to be worked on, because a lot of people with this sometimes the core aspect of this is that they rely a lot on that relationship as their source of self-esteem. So it's like, what can you find that is giving you this real sense of self-esteem and validity? So yeah, just really trusting yourself on an intuitive Piscean innate level, and really seeing everything that happens. Sorry, I have to keep throwing this ball for my cat. He's like a dog. He makes me play fetch with him. So cute. But yeah, so it's a big mission. And yeah, I would say just really looking at every situation and seeing, am I prioritizing myself, right? Am I prioritizing my needs? Um, and like a lot of people, just they'll prioritize or not prioritize. They'll make too many sacrifices for the relationship that will actually hurt them, right? So um, it really is about like establishing that strong sense of self. And since it's Pisces, it's really based on compassion and based on it's about taking your imagination world and putting that into your everyday life, into your identity, right? Implanting that into your identity. So yeah. Um like, so one thing also is a Pisces is boundaries, right? And Capricorn moon obviously helps that, but being able to stand up for yourself is very important. And kind of exiting that comfort zone, being able, it can make someone just very afraid of conflicts, right? And trying to avoid them. Um, so yeah, just really it comes down to meeting your own needs in this lifetime. And just yeah, like you can even think of it like the sign of Aries, right? It's first house similar to Aries. So it's like I say, sometimes it's okay to be a little bit selfish, not to an extreme, but really putting yourself first, right? But letting go, yeah, can be really, really tough. But a lot of times people with this, they can give so much in relationships and get taken advantage of by, you know, their niceness gets taken advantage of, right? So, um, yeah, it's about finding relationships that kind of have a balance in that, or not finding, letting them come, right? So, yeah. Um, so yeah, I would say like just the idea of just yeah, being your own first choice. And it's not easy, right? And um it can feel very, very empty um at times and very undefined. And that's why I think the Saturn there is making it so difficult, because it does make that it makes you have to work extra hard to find that spirituality, to find that you know to be able to get into that way of thinking. And it can really, like, what I've seen it do for a lot of very spiritually minded people is that it's taken them down to a lot of their more material world issues, right? So I think one of the best things for North Node first house is physical exercise. Um, just like anything that helps you, like whether it's yoga, like have like a good relationship with your body, um, and just connecting to your higher self, right? Being grounded in your body and in your spirit, and it all goes back to the root chakra, right? So people with this a lot of times will see what the rest of the chart says, but they don't necessarily feel that groundedness and that security. So um when you feel secure in yourself, there's less of a need to rely on someone else, and then the relationships that you do bring on don't have that they don't have that element of you're like the partner is giving you something that you lack, right? So um and yeah, like a lot of it I think with North Node Aquarius is just being there for humanity, um belonging to a community, that really having friends and being parts of groups, or having a mission that's very, very based on who you truly are, right? And there could have been past lives where maybe you wanted to blend in more, right? And there's that feeling, and this is what we suffer, not suffer, what we go through as Leo South nodes is like we've been adored in the past, right? Like it's like the royal sign. So um Aquarius is a sign that doesn't give a shit what other people think of them. And you know, like there can, yeah, so it really is yeah, it really is about moving into that lesson of the metaphysical value as opposed to the physical value that you give. Um, so yeah, it's very selfless placement. I see a lot of times in myself and in others with this that when they do things that are more ego driven, the universe tends to block them and it can create a lot of frustration. But when they're doing things that are for the good of other people in their heart, that's when things work out, right? Um, there can also be South Node Leo like used to being the center of attention. Um, there can be like this built-in like entitlement, so I've talked to a number of people who have myself included. Well, I don't talk to myself. Well, actually, I do, but yeah, who have resonated with that, right? And yeah, often there is sort of this kind of regal royal energy, right? So, yeah, the good thing is that like Leo South nodes, they're very generous. They have this warmth, right? This creative energy, and they can use that to sort of still stand out, to really find themselves, to individuate, but to really, it's not standing out for the sake of standing out. It's just doing things based on you and who you really, really are, which takes a lot of introspection, right? And that right now, why it's difficult is because that's the Pisces in your chart, and Saturn there is restricting that a little bit and making it hard to feel like you're progressing in that sense. So um yeah, like the lower Leo South node is like the lower Leo, right? Self-centered, arrogant, all that stuff. Um looking down on people who are different than us. Aquarius North Node is all about acceptance, right? It's about really accepting people for who they are at a heart level as opposed to their social status per se. Um, Acknowledging like the humanness in everyone, right? And um, yeah, so like sometimes I've noticed this too with Leo South nodes is that sometimes they can prefer, like they can have this sort of feeling of like they like only socializing with people who kind of meet a certain how do you say, like like um they meet a certain like people that you consider like adequate to be in your company, right? um and the most, Aquarius is saying like the best relationships are people who are actually way different than you, right? Who can actually, maybe, for example, like sometimes South Node Leo people can have like this obsession with having like attractive friends, but like Aquarius North Node, it's like they're meant, it's meant to like, maybe the people are a little bit quirky, right? But they teach you a lot about yourself. Um, so yeah, like Leo and Aquarius, they're both about individuality, but they're different, right? Because like Leo, it's like more about, shining as like kind of like the main, like kind of shining in its own way, more in an individual way, in the sense of like being like center stage. Aquarius is, it sees individuality in uniqueness um, as something that makes a certain, community or friendship or organization better. So it's like how you can take your own uniqueness and then find like-minded people in a mission, right? That really, really resonates with that. Um, so yeah, I think that like people with this, that energy, that positive energy is really, really good for the communities, but sometimes there can be a reluctance to join certain communities, because of that Leo South Node, desire to be accepted, um, and not stand out. And yeah, what else can I say about that? Yeah, so it really is about like learning to not, sometimes Leo South nodes can be a little bossy. It's about learning to be, to collaborate, to work well with people, right? Like you can be a great leader, but it is about, being able to work with other people as well. Um, and yeah, kind of getting past any ego issues or yeah. So a lot of people with this, they do, um, it's interesting, right? Because I've seen a lot of people with this who, in relationships, they can be overly dominant in some sense. But then I've also, like with your chart, it kind of can be a little bit different. But the point is that there is this like karmic tendency to have lots of periods of alone time in life, right? And that's like the most valuable time for growth and for self-improvement. And yeah, it's just really about just learning to allow other people to shine. And pumping other people up, right? And yeah, like it can be lonely if one sticks to that south node of like having to, you know, only be with a certain caliber and their caliber of human, but it's just really about being more open-minded to that. Um, so yeah. Um, what else? So you're here to definitely be unconventional and to really prioritize freedom. Um, like definitely like space in relationships is very important as you grow older, especially. Um, and there is usually like a very unique life path, like career wise. Um, South Node in Sag with Jupiter, so that's an amazing placement. That gives you tremendous fortune. Let me see. Actually, I want to go back to the whole sign so I can see how I want to see it. But you do have Aquarius square your moon, right? So that's interesting. So that creates someone who, oftentimes when they grew up, they, with their mother, a lot of times the early nurturing, they couldn't really rely on it in a consistent way. And a lot of times the parents were divorced, not always, but overall, there's a level of, it can make someone very, very back and forth with their emotions and this like constant need for stimulation, which can be, the grass is greener on the other side all the time. So that can be difficult. Um, Now your midheaven, wow. So you do have like that's what I want to see. You have a very, very powerful midheaven. You have it on the royal star Antares. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But that's huge. That's massive, massive news. Um, and with the fixed stars, it's the midheaven, the ascendant, and they have to be like exact degree pretty much, or like within 1 degree, and you have it exact degree with Antares. There's four royal stars. That's one of them. And yeah, that's like a really badass star. I was talking about it the other day, right? It says in itself Aries, like Aries. So it's very much like very militant, very badass, very it really, really wants to it gives someone a lot of courage and a lot of ability to withstand the difficult parts of life. And with the midheaven, it can literally bring fame, right? It can literally allow someone to shine, but it is, um, there's Regulus and Antares, right? Regulus is like the king or queen, with the crown, and Antares is like the king or queen of the underworld. So it's more of like, yeah, it can be a little bit dominant, but it does usually bring great success. But we'll get into that a little bit later. And the fact that you have Jupiter, the planet of luck, right, on your midheaven, that suggests that the father had some, positive effect, but I've seen sometimes where that's not been the case. Um, and you do have Jupiter square Sun. I have that too. Which can be like a Superman, superwoman type syndrome where it's like taking too many risks and the person has to learn to, not be overly um grandiose with their ideas and their thinking. But yeah, um, back to what I was saying before. So yeah, the fact that all this is on your ascendant, right? It's like, you're meant to be you being in your own individual self is literally and expressing that high Aquarius energy, right? That's you in your North Node. So, the Aquarius rising people, they tend to, they always they tend, they stand out from a crowd, right? And the mood square, as I was saying, Uranus, there's that level of rebelliousness, right? Naturally. And what squares? Let me see. Okay. So you have Saturn square the node. Um, so I look at that as a karmic skip step where, and this makes, I could have probably called, like, I do this sometimes where I'll call things, um, and then I'll see if they're there. I could have called this. It came to my mind, but I didn't say anything. But the reason that I thought that is because, this is representing someone who in past lives had a level of conditioning from whether it was the society they grew up in, whether it was, I'm so scratchy, whatever they were in, whatever circumstances they were living in, they were conditioned, and it pushed them away from the truth, right? It pushed them away from that exploration of the self. So in this life, like as an Aquarius rising, North Node rising, you are really, really trying to explore, and you have Uranus, here in the ninth house in um in whole sign, and then in Placis it would be Jupiter and Neptune. So regardless, you most likely would always have, and you have Chiron in a sign that's like Mercury sign, or is it in Taurus or something? It's in Aries. Interesting. Um, so you probably always had like a very different type of philosophy. If you grew up in a religious family, for example, you would not just want to believe things at face value. You want to really, um, very, very, very studious and very interested in understanding the truth, because in past lives that was blocked from you. Imagine that. I just, there's a million different circumstances you can imagine. You can imagine you're in a society where, you just get told that this is the way it is, and you're not able to really think outside the box, and you want to fit in, and relationships took over and very traditional. So Aquarius is very non-traditional. It's about doing things your own way, right? So that's why it's so important for you to do that. um let's see something here. Yeah, if it's smack on your ascendant. But also having Mercury conjunct the North Node is about, you finding your own voice in this life, right? And just how you're being urged to really develop your own communication skills, and thinking outside the box, thinking on your own. um there could be, I see teaching in your chart, right? Like the Jupiter in Sag, right? But just like lots linked to groups, different groups that really align with your soul. But I also think that, yeah, there's like with Mercury there, could have been some interjects, some self-limiting beliefs, right, that have come up that and sometimes even the Saturn there can be like some shame or some guilt, right? So looking at that as something that exists in your current life as the karma gets pushed over, right? And wondering, okay, how can I, like what am I feeling, right? Because you have, Moon square Uranus and square Chiron, so that would indicate, and it's in Capricorn, that like I said, that most likely the mom was, the nurturing was unreliable. And it does make someone very, very adaptable to change. And it gives someone on a career level the ability to, yeah, to really adapt well and to want to try lots of different things. So sometimes, and like move a lot too. People with this also, like they can be very, very good with, like some people really struggle when it comes to switching locations. A lot of times the Moon Uranus people, they are very good because they learn from an early age, you know, change is inevitable in life, right? And so they just get good at it, and then sometimes they start to crave it, right? So, but yeah, sometimes with the Uranus and Moon, it can make someone like almost stubborn and like relentless in like their desire to stand out from the crowd. So, yeah, like it's really like about viewing all sides, all perspectives, right? Like sometimes people with that, let's say they're in a situation, um, growing up, let's say their parents are saying, do this, and like let's say that's option A, they might automatically choose the opposite option B, even if they haven't looked at the situation and analyze it. Because North Node Aquarius, it's about the logic, right? Like Leo is the heart, Aquarius is the brain, right? So it's like you're trying to like move away from being too emotionally led in your decision making and move towards like this more, it's logic, but it's very like outside the box thinking, right? So it's being able to make decisions. Yes, they're outside the box types of thoughts, and it's very, very intuitive as well. There can be lots of downloads that you get, but not just trying to like always shock with your decisions and how you move in life. Um, let's see, but yeah, like the Moon square Chiron, that's difficult because that just it creates someone who it just speaks of the mother wound essentially, usually, and just feeling misunderstood, like the black sheep in the family often. And a lot of times I see that with people who sometimes they feel like they have to be the mother to their own mother, and they have to, they're here in this lifetime to heal their emotions, heal themselves on an emotional level a lot. So there's usually some adverse childhood experiences that, especially as a Capricorn moon, right, that really push them to have to, go through a lot. But like in doing so, they gain a level of compassion that enables them to be very, very good healers, whether they do that as a career or that's just, in their a skill that they have for friends and just in their daily life when needed, right? Um, but yeah, it really is about um, rising above the pain that, and in this case, so let's talk about this. So the moon is in Capricorn. I always talk about Capricorn moon in detail because it's a very interesting placement, and it's one that I've noticed is Felix. Go go. It's one that's a lot different. I've noticed in mostly in female and male charts. The reason for that, in my opinion, is because Capricorn moons, there's this sort of ingrained toughness, right? They usually have to face a lot when they're young. And because women or females, girls, when they grow up, they have relationships that are more built on emotions and being able to express emotions. It can be easier for the Capricorn moons to get that out. While for men, it can be very, very difficult and they can hold a lot in. But a lot of times Capricorn moon, it's about it can be very perfectionist, like very high expectation for themselves, to be like consistently strong and self-sufficient. Um, but when they have, because it's moon Saturn, there can be times of depression, right? And a lot of times they did experience their mother is quite strict, cold, um, not really giving them what they needed emotionally. Um, Although I don't know. When it comes to like the mother and the father stuff, like, I base my work off of like experience more than like something I may have like learned or read, like, but I don't know. The mother father stuff is really, it's the only stuff in my readings that I would say there's just such a huge variability and it's so hard to predict. Like, for example, like I might see I might get a client who's like everything was on point, but the things you were saying about my mom were actually true for my dad, or vice versa, right? Because sometimes the moon can represent, some say the moon's always the mom, but like I look at it more psychologically because I'm a two psychology masters. I look at it as just like early nurturing, your feminine side, right? So moon in Capricorn, yeah, they have to get through lots of emotional restrictions. I always say this. It's about allowing the self, right? Allowing the more like it's Saturn, so it's rock, which is the archetype that symbolizes Saturn. And sometimes they care too much about what other people think of them. They want, and they're, because it's rock, the emotions, in Cancer, right? So it's in its detriment in Capricorn, because emotions want to flow like water, right? Like Cancer, the water sign, right? They want to be able to like, you want to be able to meet your emotional needs, cry, like for example, cry when you need to cry, feel your emotions, all that. With Capricorn, they can get stuck really easily, and there's a need. I always say it's like this alchemical process of liquefying stuck emotional patterns, stuck crystallized emotional patterns, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, it can make someone very responsible, very serious. Um, but they're all like I said, they're always seen as the capable one, the one that can get through like different BS in life and different um things in their way, right? There's different, they have to overcome a lot young. So they tend to grow up quite fast, but then when they go through difficult times, it can be very difficult for them. And once again, I'll say it again, I've seen this, I have several female friends who have Capricorn moons, and it's quite good. And it's more about like it makes them very hardworking and structured and organized. So it really comes down to the emotional work, internal work that one's done, but it can make it difficult to be vulnerable, right? It can really, really make it hard to just like, you know, tell someone like, hey, I'm struggling, right? Because they're expected to be the ones that are not struggling. A lot of times in their family, they're looked at, even if they're the black sheep, as the solid one, right? So yeah, it can make like that spontaneous emotional connections and also just like reactions, not the forte of that moon sign, right? So yeah, it can really take time to kind of warm up to others, and form that closeness. And yeah, so the whole perfectionism part, like Capricorn is a sign that that wants, Capricorn moons feel very stuck when in their life they're not moving towards their goals, right? And I said, you have Jupiter on midheaven, which is one of the best placements possible for, you know, I want to say success in career, but just good fortune in being seen well by the greater public. So, it's a really, really nice placement, but there can sometimes be too, yeah, like I said, too much of concern of how one is appearing publicly. And when it comes to relationships, they're very loyal. and they have a huge heart. Most, like, I can't think of one cat moon I've met that doesn't, but they don't give it away. They might not show it so easily, right? Um, so yeah, they can sometimes be too serious. And there's lots of other parts of your chart that make this easier, like all your Sag placements. That gives you a lot of fun, right? But yeah, like when we think about, like, Neptune squaring your sun and Pisces also, um that connects too, because it can give you a unrealistic assessment of yourself. So you might be here, and or you might see other people as here, and you might be and see yourself as here, while in reality you're here and other people are here. Not to judge people as good or bad, but just as an example, as a metaphor, right? So um by being of service in your life, whether it's through career, um just in whatever ways life kind of gives you a chance to be, and being in touch with your emotions, and having that spiritual relationship with yourself, right? That's the greatest way to have more clarity around yourself. But sometimes people with that can really, really struggle, when they're doing more ego driven things. So that's another clue that your life is, a lot in your chart is pushing you towards being, once again, very much in your own individualization, right? Like, you're not meant to just go with the kind of flow of what the public expects. Um, and you're here to release a lot, and you're here to, through it all, to heal a lot, and perhaps heal other people through your own healing. And sometimes people, like, when I do these readings, people, like, you know think, okay, well, yeah, I'm not a healer. I'm not doing astrology. I'm not doing psychology. That's not what it's about. Like, God doesn't look at, I might record myself saying this because this is kind of important stuff. I'm going to repeat. Yeah. So, yeah, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, a lot of people get this wrong, right? Where it's like, people, people tend to think that, because I do a lot of these readings, and people tend to think that, okay, just because I'm not a healer or an astrologer or a psychologist or whatever, that, um, the aspects in my chart that are pointing towards healing are not important, but they are, right? Because think about it. It could be in your own, like, when God, you know, everything divine, it's not looking like, God isn't concerned with, you know, the things that we think are important, the material things, right? It could be in your own bloodline, right? So the healing that you do, even if you don't become this big healer that's affecting all these people, it could be that you break a karmic cycle, right? Which I see that in a lot of the placements in your chart, right? That you break something that's been going on for so many generations, right? With the Chiron, with the Uranus, right? So with Capricorn Moon, that's there is a lot of responsibility there to be the one, the capable one, that can really break through that. Um, but like I said, it does take a lot of hard work and releasing, because um yeah, like, definitely a lot of hard work and releasing is needing as a Capricorn moon, because you are, like I said, you are the capable one. And it's those old stuck, it's that programming, right? And um just there can be, especially with Saturn on your sun right now, that feeling of getting stuck, right? And then it's like, what do you do during those times? So basically, like, your whole chart's pointing towards that Aquarian energy of individualization, and then also this other energy of Neptune, high Neptune, which is making your dreams and your imagination and imprinting them on your life purpose and on your personality, on your day-to-day life, and being able to, like, get better when it comes to connecting with other people and being in your own not needing anyone else, being your own individual self, right? That is like the biggest thing, right? And the more empathy you can develop, the better, right? The more kind you are to yourself, the better. So I feel like that's the big thing. And a lot of times Capricorn moons, they really need, therapy, and that can be like, therapy or just like any kind of mental health. Um, that can be very, very good for them. I just took a story. Random session clip. Clips. But yeah, I hope that that lands clearly, right? It's like you know, not everyone is meant to heal the collective, but um, for example, um, hold on. Why is my phone doing this? Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, like not everyone, like I just want to like re-say it, like not everyone is here to heal the collective and to have this effect on so many people, but it can be even deeper when you're doing work that is just, for example, breaking a karmic pattern, right? Let's say it's been like 30 generations in a row that have done the same thing over and over and over. And then let's say you have kids. I'm not sure if you do. Um, and you raise them in a way based on your own healing that then leads to the 30 next generations being completely different. Like that is like you healing the world in a different way, right? Than someone like, let's say, who's, an astrologer, psychologist, or whatever, right? Who's seen tons of clients like that. Like, there's no way of saying which one's deeper, which one's less deep, right? Um, God doesn't see it that way, anyways, right? God puts you in a position to do what you are meant to do and what's right for you. And a lot of times, the Capricorn moons, they have quite a heavy burden of responsibility, and it's not easy for them to just admit, when they're feeling a little bit down. Um, so yeah, so I would say, and are these together? Mm, no. So there's a T square with Chiron, Aries, Moon. So the healing is in Cancer, right? It's T square. It's like two squares, right? Or three squares that create like a triangle, and it's like a bow and arrow. So the moon is the apex. So it's literally saying that sixth house Cancer, so acts of service, right? Um, acts of service, being in touch with yourself on a daily level emotionally, right? That is how you heal what you could call the mother wound, or the, I don't like to call it that, like just the early emotional wound that I've been referring to around the Capricorn moon that can lead to this flow, right? So, yeah, and being a Pisces, and it all goes back to right now. You've always relied on the fact that you're a Pisces to help you with this Capricorn, with this difficult part of your chart, right? But now that Saturn is inhibiting that Piscean part of you, it's difficult. And it feels like, it's like, where do I find my resources, right? So you have to work extra hard during this period, but you're nearly there, my friend. You're nearly there. Trust me, you are nearly there. It just feels more intense right now because you've been going through it for so long, and you think, okay, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And it's going up and down. So, Saturn's here and it's like this, and then it's like this, and now it's like this, and you're like, what the fuck? This feels just as hard as it did, maybe not just as hard, but yeah, up there with um, at the very start. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, Cancer sixth house. Yeah. So the more you can allow your daily routines to be influenced by your emotions, or to add things, different things, activities, practices, um, whatever into your daily life, even your work that involves the sign Cancer. So whatever gets you in touch with your emotions, very, very important. And that's the thing with Capricorn moons, is that they really have to make more of an effort to find that alignment, right? Um, like they can easily get into periods of like just being a little bit stuck, right? So, okay. Um, so yeah, also just like ascendant, right? Conjunct Mercury. That just, you're very curious, people with that, they tend to talk a lot. Um, just communications is very, very important for you. And just the discovery of new ideas. It's very, yeah, it's very curious in Aquarius. Um, and just being able to have other people that you can share and build these ideas with, build people that you can build on the ideas you have with, that's paramount. Um, so that goes back to the whole thing of finding the right tribe of people. Um, okay, I was just making sure. I was like, my brightness is down, but yeah, you can see me. Okay, so, but yeah, Moon is still with Venus, right? So, that does create someone who likes, it's a very, very good for this kind of emotional beauty, I guess you could say. Like it definitely creates someone who is going to be more spiritually oriented, who will have a level of charm and internal tact, right? Where they're not going to, and we'll see if I see anything else in your chart, but most likely they're not going to like take out their stuff on other people as much. Um, but still, going back to being a Pisces, right? It is about boundaries. And that is what's so difficult for so many Pisces in relationships. And because the South Node is there, there's like a tendency to go towards relationships. So, um, yeah, and you have Venus square, yeah. So another thing, um, yeah, so just Venus and Moon, I think it just gives like it's a great for being a mother. Um, very calm, very gentle, very good friend. Um, also like enjoying, yeah, anything like kind of just surrounding yourself with beauty, whether it's like the design of your house or yourself, whatever, right? Where's my phone freaking out? My phone like froze. What the Okay, whatever. Um, so yeah, as I was saying before, Sun is that in a T square? Yeah. So you have Jupiter and Neptune together in Sag. So that is a beautiful one for spirituality, for creativity, music, arts, all that stuff. But there is a need to develop self-discipline, um, so that you can really develop your talents properly. And people with that, because Jupiter makes everything bigger, it makes them very attracted to the spiritual world. And um, I think, yeah, I love that placement because it's right with your midheaven. So I wouldn't be surprised if you had a career like even just like midheaven and Sag, even besides the fact that it's in Antares with Mars there. you're gonna have like a kind of go-getter attitude in your life, in your external life. And a big advantage there, you might be really attracted to faraway places and people from different cultures. Um, that's sort of how it is with the Sag. Um, and yeah, overall, I would say that um, it's a really nice midheaven area, very powerful. But mutable midheavens usually, and especially in Sag, they want to be. So I keep talking about truth and moving away from conditioning. So that you'll want that to be reflected in your career. So for example, um, and like with the sixth house, ruled by Cancer, your moon in Capricorn. So being there could be like a big desire to serve and to do something that, if it's not serve, because Capricorn can also be very much about their money, right? And even Cancer could be about security also in that sense, so, or even like something like the home, like real estate. But like there is that desire to I feel like Capricorn moons, it's hard for them to feel happy when they don't feel like they're giving back to society in some way, especially with a North Node Aquarius. Like my brother, he's a Capricorn moon, and um I definitely see that in him, right? When he um you know like he's kind of not gonna like give his whole story, but basically he has sort of let's just say taken his it's been hard for him to finish this entire process of his school and whatnot. He's still working on it, but I know the second he finishes and he starts becomes a counselor, that it's just going to make everything way easier. So, and just that confidence that a Capricorn moon gets from that is massive. Um, Wait, why did my thing just do that? All these readings, and people tend to think that okay, just I delete my second one. That was my best one. I'm gonna delete these unless it posts my second one. Can upload, retry? That's lame. I'm just gonna post one then. Yeah. So the Saturn, interesting. Saturn, Taurus. It's good placement, like sign wise. But fourth house Saturn, third house in Placidus. So themes can be around difficulty, with childhood and restriction in childhood, repression in the household. Although I see in Gemini, right, that speaks to more of like a active mercurial communicative household. But yeah, Saturn, I think that like mercurial also can be very scientific and not necessarily spiritual. So you may have felt a little bit restricted in your self-expression. Um, and even in Taurus, I would say that I mean, you prefer to have Saturn in a Earth sign, right? Capricorn's the best, well, or Aquarius, but yeah, Saturn, Taurus. I would say that sometimes people with that, yeah, it can make them very good workers, slow, methodical, and very persistent. So, but a lot of times they have to get past some deeply buried stuff where they can kind of be their own worst enemy. It often comes from childhood, whether it's the family or whether it's like the siblings or the early schooling. Yeah. Um, but I would say that that placement is, yeah, it can make someone, and that with your moon in Cap, it can make someone too concerned with material possessions and making, money and all that kind of stuff. So there can be a lot of worries with that can happen, that can be around money, right? Like, insecurity. So it goes back to that root chakra, right? So working on that root chakra and on that faith. And this might be why it's so difficult for you right now, because as a Pisces, we depend on our faith. We depend on our intuitive feeling of the divine, whatever that is for you. So when Saturn's there, it makes that fucking hard. And when you have other aspects in your chart that are showing me that the root chakra, the feeling of like, is the world a safe place? Your security, right? Your feeling of internal security being off, and then not being able to connect to those higher dimensions that you've been able to go to during other times and get that 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 kind of feedback that helps you, right? That spiritual feedback. Now not having that can be very, very difficult, right? So yeah. Yeah, but I mean it's a good place to have that. Okay, let's talk about this. So yeah, so relationships are always going to be a little bit tricky. So, I brought up perfectionism, and with a Capricorn moon, it is literally, there's a link between, if you have too high of expectations for yourself, you're gonna put that on a partner. Um, so Venus in the 12th house in whole sign, 11th house in Placidus, right? And also, like, just to talk really briefly about the 11th house, even though you have other planets there in whole sign, we're talking about your tribe, and it's just more of that Aquarius energy, right? It's more of that, and a lot of times people with that, they find their greatest destiny, their greatest purpose, like their grand purpose later in life, right? So there's usually a lot of trial and error. Try this, try this, try this, try that, but a lot of energy. But yeah, like I said, it was like career should, like the best type of career would have something where you're learning a lot of truth, your worldview's expanding um through what you're doing. So monotony, anything monotonous would be very difficult, and Pisces don't do well with that, even though they are very, great chameleons. But like as an Aquarius rising, a lot of Aquarius risings like to reinvent themselves. They don't like to just be all traditional and whatnot. So yeah. But as I was saying, to have to have the Venus there in the 12th with the sun Neptune, sun Jupiter, it's like that's a little bit tough, right? Because on one end you have your midheaven, Jupiter, Neptune, right? And it's this part of your chart in Sagittarius that is like, yes, it's very spiritual, but then it relates to your career in the sense that it gives you a lot of luck and a lot of expansion in that domain. But then you have your fourth house Saturn, right? Which is quincunx your Mars. And that, once again, is another place for someone who, especially in the first 30 years, had to work extremely hard, and get past lots of setbacks. But um, with the Pisces sun squaring that energy, it's basically like you're trying, like your career, like who you are on a public level, your midheaven, your career, your dharma, what you're really doing that other people see, your life's mission in the sense of like a lot of people will call it career. I think it's dharma, right? Because some people's dharma is being a mother, for example. It's squaring your sun. So your identity of the Pisces is you're gonna have to really balance out um, what you feel like. For example, Sun and Neptune square people can take on too much energy, and it can be really difficult for them to distinguish between their energy and someone else's. And so yeah, they can get burnt out quite easily. But then when you have Sun square Jupiter, that can be someone who says, oh, who thinks like they can handle everything, and they can just jump into, like, let's say there's a job, right? That's like you know, you you accept it right away. I got this. I can do it. But then that's like the Sun square Jupiter. So people with age, they learn to kind of hold back. Okay, let's sleep on these big decisions, right? But Sun square Neptune, it's just lots of battles that have to be overcome to feel confident within yourself. And just really, it can make someone have issues with self-esteem, with confidence, right? And just taking on other people's energy is very, very, common with that. So a lot of times they need to spend time alone. That's a very Piscean thing. Um, and get past that self-doubt, right? And be able to see themselves clear. That's why a lot of people with Neptune and 12th house and Pisces, they do better in careers where they're helping other people, because through helping other people, they understand themselves better. They understand their own pain, and it's a karmic retribution, right? So, yeah, a lot of times people with that, they suffer a lot from guilt. Um, and, from an early age, sometimes there's, being bullied. It can make people quite gullible early on. Um, and sometimes it makes people feel like they can't, like, people look at them and feel like they can't trust that person. Um, like almost like, yeah, like just like, yeah, like it's almost like they're wearing a shirt that says I'm guilty, or like don't trust me or something, when that's not the case. But really, psychologically, it is about deception, and it can be quite self-sabotaging, right? um and that's why the importance of finding the right career and the right mission is so massive. And especially like if you think of like I said, like I don't always like to go with like the son as a father, but like, you know if you think of the son as a father, or just the parental relationships in general that formed you as a person, um there could have been a lot of times with the Sun Neptune people, it's like maybe the father wasn't present enough, or had like a weak influence. But then you have Jupiter on the midheaven, which says otherwise. But that's not always like that, right? But overall, as a Pisces, it's just makes it hard to really assert one's individuality, and that goes back to your Chiron, which we haven't got into. And Chiron is your pain. So in Aries, people with that, they have trouble asserting themselves, asserting themselves in that kind of very boom way, right? So that's another big mission for you, is to be able to be assertive, and to be able to speak your mind, and to move towards to be able to have your own back when you need to have it, right? And that will breed self-confidence. Um, so one thing with Sun Neptune, going back to that, is there can be escapism and avoidance. It can create an avoidant attachment style at times, right? So you do have Saturn, which definitely helps with the self-discipline, which can be lacking with that, with your moon. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, it can sometimes create this sort of inertia, and when one isn't moving towards growing themselves spiritually, and when I mean spiritually, it's like a huge umbrella term, right? When they're not, like, their worldview isn't expanding, it and life feels like this sort of like monotonous, vicious cycle, that's when Neptune really, really can mess people up, and they can do things that are very self-sabotaging, whether it's drugs, um, you know, drugs, alcohol, different negative escapist type um, psychological unconscious things like self-sabotaging a relationship because they feel like the other person's gonna let them go, you know, of messing up at work, avoiding responsibilities, that kind of thing. So the key there is to not run away and to face up with what you need to face up with, which is easier said than done. Um, but yeah, like with the Sun square Jupiter, sometimes it can just give someone like this like crazy ambitions, and it's like when they inevitably like, like just like it's like being okay with like, if the goal is like get be the most famous person in the world, it's like some like crazy ambition that you can't control, and then you fall short. It's still being happy and grateful, right? And knowing it's like, what's the expression? It's like shoot for the stars, shoot for the sun, get to the stars, or whatever. So it's like, you know, you shoot for 10,000 and you get to 7,000, but you still got the fucking 7,000, right? So, yeah, I think it really does push one to accept themselves and not judge themselves so harshly. And, like I was saying before, it really is about, especially right now, it's about the small and achievable steps, right? Um, each day, what can you do that can get you more in tune with your water side? Whether I tell people to watch movies that make them cry, honestly. It works. Um, Journaling, affirmations, Neptune, filming yourself, you don't have to show anyone, you film yourself in a video. You do like a vlog about okay, today, this is, like it's using your imagination, right? And then that improves everything in relationships. Um, right? Because it's all linked. So um so yeah, then when we look at the two. Yeah, so then Mercury square Saturn, that kind of backs up what I was saying earlier, that people with that early on, they were usually held back in their self-expression. Um, Sometimes they were made to feel like what they said wasn't there was something wrong with what they said. Um, Perhaps they became, you know, um, they gained some like some difficulty communicating their ideas to others, or just others opposed their ideas. But also it can create a level of stubbornness sometimes, right? Where one is dogmatic, right? But like overall, like I link it. I always look at that. I see these types of things in so many readings, and I always think it's like, it can be very pessimistic, and it can be lots of like feedback early on. And Saturn and Mercury, it can create depression, right? So it's like and pessimism and worrying and fear and all that stuff, right? Loneliness. So it can really inhibit the how one's mind works, right? So it speaks to that need to have that larger view of the world, which we talked about for your career. Um, and overcoming shyness, being able to speak about your emotions, right? Like that's literally the Capricorn moon. So this makes it even more difficult. Um, and yeah, like a lot of people with this, they'll take on too much responsibility, and then they can just judge themselves so harshly. And yeah, just like isolate themselves and all kinds of stuff, right? So it's like Like once again, like this is I see this all over your chart. Like you're not meant to suffer in silence. Like the more that you talk about your dark thoughts and um all that, you will attract people, and you might not think about it, think you might not believe that, but it is literally true. Um, because people will feel that they will resonate with you when you're able to really let things out. And if that's something you're able to do, then you've done a lot of work already, right? I'm sure you have, right? I'm just saying. So it's really like this, and it gets easier. This one got easier post 30, right? Post Saturn return. But yeah, it really is like kind of replacing negative thinking and really having mindfulness to look at that. So yeah, I would say also just going back a little bit, and we'll go back to your Venus in a sec, but like within the Pisces, like you just always, like I talked about the boundaries, square Neptune, you just really got to watch out for people, you know? You're very kind-hearted, you're very giving, and I've just seen this too many times where it's just like very nice people that, given like narcissism has been a huge topic lately, right? And narcissistic men. Um, Women too, but I've heard more about men, but I know it exists in both ways. But yeah, so just really taking your time with any decisions about who you let in, right? Because Sun square Neptune and Sun square Jupiter together can create a combo of making decisions too fast, and then also a bit of fog around them. But the more you increase your spirituality, that turns that aspect into an asset. My quote I created. Um, so yeah. So yeah, like even like having your son with the ascendant just usually gives like a very radiant personality. Um, Makes you like really have like this strong influence on other people. Um, and it just complements your North Node journey that you're here to really, like it's a house of the self, the house of identity. So you're here to invest and learn about your own identity and your own self of who you truly are, because that's been held back in past lives, right? I could go on and on and on. Um, and then just like, a little more about Chiron before I start talking um I didn't call about some other stuff. Like, yeah, Chiron, in the third, this goes with what I've been saying, right? People with that, they oftentimes um suffered with some respect to their feelings of being intelligent, or like, getting feedback early on that the way they thought, their ideas, all that, something was off about it. You have no idea how many of my clients have this and how much shame they have growing up. And then like they learn, okay, I'm not crazy, right? Right? They learn, um, like, like, and I talked about this in the post recently, right? Like the whole, like you have all these placements, they're all connecting back to this message I see in like literally probably half of my clients' charts, right? Where it's like early on, having different way of thinking about life, different way of ideas, different outside the box thinking that's different from the tradition, and just getting shamed as a child for that, and then thinking in your own head that there's something wrong with your thinking. But then throughout your life, you discover that, and yeah, like I think that with the fact that, I mean, you have four different placements that say this, so that can create that perfectionism as well, and it just really makes one have to go deep into their childhood and remember all of the different experiences that could have made that happen or led to that conclusion, and contradict them through, even with like the Neptune square you have, affirmations or whatever it may be, right? Um, so yeah, and then like Chiron Aries, like I said, it's a fear of self-assertion. So yeah, we see this all over your chart, right? It's like there's everything is connecting, where you've been pushed back in past lives, right? You've had your identity sort of, you know, kind of taken from you in a very in a way where you're trying to blend in a lot with society. And in this life, you have so many indicators of you trying to be your own person, but it's like, can you accept being a little bit weird? Not weird in a bad way. Can you accept being different? That's the key. Can you think outside the box? Can you allow yourself to get past these like 4 or 5 different placements that show that you were shamed early on for your way of thinking, your overall ideology, which with your ninth house, with Neptune, Jupiter, and Placidus, and Uranus, and whole signs, like, you had a very different way of thinking than the family you grew up with, different belief system. So that's the big challenge. Aquarius North Node goes perfectly with that, because it asks you, you know, how can I be different? So, yeah, it's big stuff. But yeah, like I've always seen the Aries Chiron people, like they have to really, really work hard to feel like they are worthy to um to express themselves in that way of like you know, standing up for themselves is the key. But also in the third house, it can make you like a very good healer with the spoken word, right? But like a lot of times, yeah, the early schooling and even with siblings, it would have been difficult. So yeah, moving on, love stuff. Obviously, the Venus in Cap, there it's going to be very karmic relationships. Um, they, you know, there's a level with Venus in Capricorn and Moon in Capricorn, right? Of just wanting someone who's responsible, right? Like it can make someone a little bit inhibited and shy in relationships where they want to form them slowly, which is very good for you with a Neptune square. But usually they are enduring unless the foundations are not firm, unless they're jumped into. And like it makes someone loyal and committed, but with some of the other things in your chart, if yeah, like with what I've been talking about with the Neptune Jupiter, confusion can come, right? And jumping onto things, the Jupiter square Sun, I always say it's like the person who walks into a casino and thinks they're automatically going to win, right? That kind of energy. So just really taking things slow is important. And yeah, and then there's lots of stuff like Venus squares Uranus, which is very interesting because Moon in Capricorn, usually in relationships they want something that's more safe, um, something that someone they can depend on, right? As opposed to like, but then yeah, okay. But then you have Juno, which is like your ideal mate, right? In Gemini, and Venus square Uranus. So what does that mean? It means that there's a psychological split between one party that wants something very firm, where there's very strong foundations and very strong boundaries. Um, Someone who their actions speak louder than their words, type of thing. But then on the flip side, um, the Uranus square Venus can create someone who is, when they're single, they want to be in a relationship, and when they're in a relationship, they want to be single. But overall, the key is having space in relationships, right? Um, Space in relationships is massive, and it like I said, it could be a very, very unconventional type of relationship that would work best for you. But Venus also has to do with money and spending. Sometimes Venus in Uranus can make someone a little bit impulsive with spending. So but like Venus in Capricorn is, so it balances out, because that gives one a conservative spending, right, just on its own. But the square of Uranus can kind of make someone, yeah. So yeah, there is a lot of like strong foundations, but then and this goes with your North Node journey, keeping your personal independence, and commitment can be quite difficult, and like abiding to like societal standards and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, you want something very solid, but you also want something that provides a lot of stimulation and excitement, right? So there can be like a very changeable um kind of energy in that sense. So um the best advice I would say would be, to understand how, like the perfectionism I spoke about earlier, how that can be reflected in any kind of union, and that when we're feeling bad about ourselves, especially like, Saturn on our sun can make us feel very bad about ourselves. It can make us feel very stuck, and like things in our life are not. And like once again, so many people, myself included, are going through this. We might not show it, right? But we, like, I'm telling you, like, just not about me. Like, this has been like probably this, besides like one crazy time in my life, which was just like insane, insane. I don't know if you read my book. It's called Pisces Live Nine Lives. It's on Amazon, which it's not a book about only my life. Only the first two chapters are. I recommend it actually. You're a Pisces, so I highly recommend it. Good book, really good book. But yeah, like this last 6 months have been, yeah, some of the hardest in my life. Up there, maybe the hardest. Yeah, I would say probably the hardest, honestly, because like, yeah, like the time them debating, like at least I had like more of a community. I don't know, either first, second, or tied for first, but either way. So yeah, like not like there's like people with this, they don't like to be tied down in relationships. They don't. They want to have, each person. You have your life, I have my life, and they also want to have like, that kind of, um fun sexual experimentation, and not necessarily. I've just that's just one area where I feel like it can kind of show itself, but in Capricorn it is a little bit more conservative. But yeah, they usually are very, very fun to be around, and they value freedom so much, and they're usually quite good at giving others freedom, unless there's something that hasn't been fixed. And um yeah, as a Pisces already, it's just like very important to normalize in yourself that being a loner per se, and someone that isolates themselves, is not bad. It's how a lot of us gain our spiritual energy and gain our greatest insights and feel sane. So being able to find, and there's more studies coming out that show that, um, sharing different bedrooms is, a good thing for a relationship that has a higher success rate. And that's been my experience. But then again, I'm not you, right? But a lot of people I talk to are really opening to that. Um, so yeah, so there's that split. So Juno in so yeah, where it is to, like, you really want someone who can offer you a level of intellectual stimulation, who, like, is changeable, who's fun, who you can really discuss a lot of things about, who you can do a lot of things with as well. But also who feels like, metaphorically, like they represent home for you, right? Um, you can, and also who you can build a home with, perhaps a family, right? Perhaps kids. So I don't know if you have kids, right? But that's what I'm saying. And even Mars and Sag, right? Like that can create, Jupiter there too. It can create someone who, would be attracted to someone foreign, or to someone who just has like a very, very open mind, very philosophical person. But a lot of times, yeah, it could be like someone from a different country, different cultural background. Um, and Venus is trine Saturn, which is a nice placement. It creates a ton of loyalty, which I see all of your chart. Very dependable partner. Um, very dutiful. Is that the word? Like dutiful, dutiful. And yeah, it's also very good for like, it's actually a really good one for money. It makes one able, it balances out that potential for being a little bit impulsive, with like, it checks it. So that's really good. It's very good for business and in relationships, and just with self-esteem, and what one values. It's like, so it really is that bridge between wanting the solid and in the known, but not too boring in that sense. And it's interesting you keep mentioning Gemini, because Gemini is your IC. So that is representing a lot about your childhood and a lot about, you know, kind of your core unconscious self, right? And your Juno there, yeah, you would like a partner that has Gemini type energy. However, they also have to not be like that flimsy type of Gemini that so many are, right? They should have at least a level of groundedness, because for you, what's really important is understanding as a Pisces that, your boundary, like you and your South Node in Leo and on the seventh house cusp, that it's very easy for you to lose yourself in relationships, and that's not what you want. All right, so yeah, but you're very, very good worker. I mean, Vesta, yeah, in Capricorn, very strong worker. Very, very committed to spiritual values as well, and um, just organized, ambitious. Yeah, maybe even a perfectionist and an overworker potentially, right? And I would say Venus in the 12th versus the 11th. I mean, either way, there's a level of usually in this chart there'd be a lot of luck with friends and with just finding those karmic groups. It might, like I said, a lot of times 11,000 it's not till later in life, but yeah, just wanting people that you can really expand with. And Venus here is yeah, it really it's like, yeah, so much about dependability and um yeah. So yeah, it's interesting because it's like a real mix between like very traditional and very non-traditional. So yeah. And also a lot of times Venus in Cat people, it's better for them not to get married before the Saturn return, because it's not horrible like Saturn in the seventh house, but um yeah, they can really like a lot of times their best loves come post 30, and a lot of times they feel like very cursed early on in life when it comes to romance relationships, and yeah, it can be difficult, and very, very um yeah, just like create lots of loneliness and kind of just yeah, just like self isolation. But also, oh yeah, Venus and Capricorn too. Uh, it's really, really good for it. Make a lot of people with this, they date or they're more attracted to older slash more mature people. So in women's charts, I've all like every woman I know with this essentially like is attracted to older men. Yeah, and it's, yeah, very good. And um yeah, it makes women value, finances, of course, and yeah. So how long have I been going? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Um, so yeah, there's also a level of spiritual protection in your chart. And I just think that humanitarianism and just your overall like large goals and dreams are massive and a huge part of everything for you. And um usually, yeah, like if you look at in Placidus, 11th house Venus, like lots of friends, like they get quite lucky and are loved in that realm, and the moon there can give them a huge emotional you know like a huge emotional, like it's almost like their friends can like be like their family. So um but also it can fluctuate, so it can make people like kind of like the friend groups can fluctuate throughout life. And um yeah, I think like if you look at it as a 12th house, it's just like there is a level of shyness and um very, very empathetic, very artistic, but sometimes they, yeah, just want to, like, sometimes their love life can feel like a source of suffering, and there can be like lots of heartbreak and lots of just falling for someone like really, really fast. Even if there is like that shyness that can show up. But yeah, twelfth house also it can make like very, very um like it can make someone fall for people who are not available, like married people, or people that they work with, stuff like that, right? It's very interesting. Um, but a lot of times Venus 12th house people have like secret bad habits, right? So yeah, I've kind of already it could just be like eating lots of sweets or something like that, but yeah, you can make what you want out of that. Um, so yeah, so just once again, so sensitive, so able to be overwhelmed by like other people's suffering, and you're really, really feeling the suffering of the collective. So in times like these, it's just spiritual boundaries are really, really important. Where you live is really important. And um and that's why I think astrology is so beneficial for you. Understanding your own weaknesses and your own strengths are so huge. Like Pisces strength is being a chameleon, being able to adapt, right? Being able to deal with change, right? There's lots of things in your chart there about that. And be a healer, be very compassionate, be able to understand people from all different walks of life. And yeah. Um, so Mars, let's see. Let's see what's going on with Mars. So it's in Sag, it's in the 10th, so that's like a real hustler type energy. Um, Mars in Sagittarius makes someone want to acquire, deep wisdom and deep, um, like I always say, the three questions: where do we come from? What are we doing? Where are we going? You'll be more concerned with that type of thing than someone else. It can also make someone very religious, but I don't see that in your chart with your ninth house. And it's unaspected, right? I mean, just the 18. Yeah. I mean, is it? I mean, 5 degree. Yeah, that's kind of too far for sextile. 18 squares Black Moon Lilith, but that's not a planet. Um, no, but it's quincunx Saturn, so it's not unaspected. Um, so yeah, so Mars quincunx Saturn, right? I already kind of went into that a little bit, but it just, yeah, it just it's in conjunct or quincunx the same thing, and it just makes it so the person has to go. It's just lots of frustration, that one has to feel. It feels like they have to, like, I don't know. I just started learning about numerology. I'm kind of curious about something. I've never actually done this before, but let me see. Oh, actually, I don't know your full name, so I can't do it. What was I trying to know? I guess just I can only know your life path number, but I can't know. It's too bad because I don't know your middle name. So yeah, you are a 5 life path. So yeah, I was just okay. Okay, yeah, yeah. I remember why I wanted to know. I wanted to know if you had a karmic debt. Um, And you do. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I'm gonna read this to you. You see, I'm fucking getting good. Like I just learned this in like 3 days. I finished this entire book. I'm not saying I'm like a master or anything like that, but yo, I had a fucking feeling that you had a karmic debt. So check this out. 14. So your life path number is 14.5. So 14 and 1 plus 4, 5. So you're 5. But I'm gonna like if you have 13, 14, 16, or 19, it's a karmic debt. I have 13. You have 14. So check this out. This karmic debt arises from previous lifetimes during which human freedom has been abused. What did I already say? Um, you know what? I have to. I'm sorry. Um, I have to fucking show myself doing this. So adding numerology into astrology. So I had a feeling, I knew it, that I just could feel it that you would have a karmic debt. Um, like I just had this feeling, and I put your life path number in. It's 14.5. So that is the karmic debt number. When you have previous lifetimes, where your freedom was abused, like I said, with your Saturn square nodes. So I saw that in your chart already, and they're forced to adapt to ever-changing circumstances and unexpected occurrences. There's an acute danger of falling victim to abuse of drugs, alcohol, and overindulgences in sensual pleasures, such as food and sex. You must put the reins on yourself. Modesty in all affairs is crucial to overcoming this current debt. Also important is the need to maintain order in life and to establish one's own emotional stability. You also must be willing to adapt to the unexpected occurrences of life, all while maintaining your focus on your goals and dreams. Flexibility and adaptability are at the very core of the struggle. Orderliness in one's immediate environment um, is crucial to maintaining clarity and focus. Mental and emotional stability must be attained in order to avoid being thrown about by the changing fortunes in the external environment. But the key is commitment here, right? Which can be difficult. So, yeah. Life will resemble a roller coaster ride, but it will always travel in the right direction if one's heart is set on what is true and good. And set yourself a high goal, maintain order wherever possible in your life, avoid excessive sensory indulgence, and maintain faith. Above all, do not give up on your goals and dreams. Those with 14 karmic debt will experience life to the fullest, and as long as they maintain a high dream, they will achieve success and great spiritual developments. Damn, that was cool. I just knew. Hold up. I can't believe that's like just a big W for me because I literally just started learning numerology like this last week, and that was the first time I've ever applied it to a reading, and I think it just shows, right? Because like I could feel, I don't know, that was really interesting because like I could feel that there's something there, and that I think can resonate with a lot of what I was saying before, right? Wow, that was cool. I did not expect that to happen. Sorry, I'm just typing this out. I don't know why. But yeah, so then the five life path, like you can look into that. Like it's just that one's like the traveler, and the five is just a lot about freedom and um yeah, and then yeah, I don't offer those readings, but I just started learning it. But um yeah, everything's about freedom and change, and you know you can just look it up if you don't know. But there can be like a lack of discipline, just needing adventure so much. So yeah, just like yeah, I see like the overindulgence potential like in so many different areas, right? But numerology is a lot more complex than just life path, right? There's a lot, that requires knowing your full name, and I don't know. It'd be interesting if I like offered like a numerology reading, like if I just like was like, okay, I'm gonna offer five astrology readings with numerology involved. Then I also can know your birthday, but I don't know if I want to like really go into this because it's already like 2 hours. But yeah, like 21, very creative, strong will to succeed, social gift, good, yeah, good imagination, getting along with other people, quick-witted, good for writing, verbal skills, artist, writer, editor, enthusiastic, inspiring, uplifting at social gatherings, great for a salesperson. Your challenge is to ground and focus your energies deeply in a specific field or endeavor. You must develop yourself and your talents in order to make the most of your life. Otherwise, you can easily let charm and wit pass for outstanding work, thus wasting your talents. You can be given to paranoia, especially when you're nervous, or your imagination runs out of control. Your love runs deep, and you can be passionate more often than not. However, you are on the receiving end of affection simply because people are charmed by you or attracted to your charismatic personality. Anyways, life has what matters most. Um, yeah, so freedom and change is what matters, and very motivating, very curious, very flexible, as I said, impulsive also. So yeah, like Mars and Sag, they wanna travel. But you might have had like different setbacks in that that in the traveling physically or the traveling metaphorically, right? Um, so and also, like Mars and Saturn, right? It's like um sometimes people with that they feel like only they can do something the correct way. Like it's difficult to trust other people. And yeah, so that can be very self-limiting if you're not being able to collaborate with other people, which is like your North Node in Aquarius, right? And it can make workaholics, which can make relationships have a bad impact on that. Um, and yeah, just like perfectionism and self-imposed limitations, right? Like so there's the need to slow down and um, just take things slow and not overdo things. Also, comparing yourself to other people, very important to not do that. Um, a lot of people with that, they'll like measure their life based on how they compare to other people when like especially in this Instagram age when like Instagram is just a fucking highlight tape of like the best moments of someone's life. They're usually like a lot of people are miserable and looking happy. Um, so yeah. So moving on, let's fill in the gaps. So yeah, you will want to travel. You will want to even be a leader, um, and learn a lot in your different pursuits, whether they're like with different teachers in different places, whatever, right? And be able to teach that to other people. Sometimes, and you can also be like the leader in your friend groups potentially, or just like a good leader in general. But sometimes it can make someone a little bit bossy and a little bit dogmatic, so they have to watch out for trying to push their philosophy too much on other people, because everyone, yeah. And I'm a Sag moon, so I've been there. And your Mars is on my moon, which is kind of dope. Um, yeah. So let's see here. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, so just I see traveling, like, and like I said, Saturn can hold that back, but just like really, really wanting freedom in your career and yeah, so it's interesting how that goes with some of the other energies. So yeah, Pluto in the eighth, that's like the ultimate 29 degrees. So it's like, you know, that you're really here to transform. That's like the ultimate test of ego versus ego ego versus soul. So what does the soul need versus what does the ego want? That's what you're being challenged. That's literally your nodal challenge too. If you think about Leo is ego on a low vibe and Aquarius is soul in the sense of like giving back, right? So that is the home of Pluto, and 29 degrees is just like lots of fate when it comes to your transformation and that need to be really good at letting go, right? Which I see in your chart. But that need to be able to accept the tough transformations and the tough things that kind of surprise you. Um, Now, Lilith square Mars is interesting. It's exact degree. And I feel like people with that sometimes they feel like they need to constantly assert their power. And um I think this could be a good thing though, because like when it comes to boundaries, it can like make people like very clear, like for others not to overstep. But it can also make people very, very sensitive to the opinions other people have of their life direction. So if we think about that back to some of the other more karmic parts of your chart, you can see how that could be difficult, right? Because you're here to not give a shit. Um, and yeah, like it can kind of make one want to assert their ego more and um yeah, so I would say that, you know, Lilith is like I think also just like yeah, perfectionism, like needing to like gain that recognition from other people and maybe even like going into like impulsive, dangerous territory when it comes to like the primal instincts, right? Mars action, you know, the fire sign already, so physical, you know, activity is really, really, really good, you know, as I said before. And some people like with this love like more adrenaline based activities like skydiving or something. I don't know, but yeah, it all comes down to like where you find power. You know, like power within yourself or power, some you know, externally. Right. So it's really about that spiritual power within yourself, and yeah, kind of being able to like integrate that more primal part of your nature, um, in a way that doesn't that's not negative, right? So then Lilith in Virgo, right? I mean that you know is all about perfectionism, right? And it's all about nothing that you do ever being good enough for yourself. And yeah, basically we've seen this repeated all over your chart. So it's not like a big surprise to me. And um yeah, the key to that is self-compassion and knowing that nothing that you can do is going to be perfect, and that by judging yourself too strongly, you know, it's going to have an effect on your relationships because you're going to judge other people too strongly. So, yeah, there is a strong intellect, but I would say that there can be issues around control also, and just like yeah, just always having yeah kind of always having to have things done in your way, and issues with like collaboration and issues with relaxation and also anxiety, right? Virgo can create that mental anxiety. So yeah, I would say also in relationships it can make one way too logical, like where like relationships are like almost like mathematical, and so that's just another thing like, yeah, being very critical of others and just noticing their flaws and keeping those thoughts to yourself, and sometimes like openly criticizing them, sometimes not. And I could also see it like, like it could be like repressed sexuality where it is. Um, so yeah, I need to kind of like let go in that sense. Um, but yeah, being very familiar with like the darker side of life, but being careful not to I mean it creates lots of like experiences with hardships and pain and all that, but just like the Pluto there, it's like you're forced to meet your shadow self in this lifetime, right? And it goes back to the control aspect. So always need to be in control and being able to let go in that sense. And yeah, but like in a cool sense, it can make someone like really obsessed with, unearthing secrets. And that's also with the eighth house Pluto too. It's like that obsession with making the unconscious conscious. Um, but yeah, it can create very crazy relationship energy, like with like secretive, like hidden relationships. Um, and usually like, yeah, it can like, there can be problems with sexuality, as I said before, maybe coming from something early in life, but it becomes better in the second half of life, right? A lot of times there's like fetishes involved. So yeah, um, another very committed placement for sure. So yeah, yeah, vertex in Virgo in the eighth. It's like, through acts of services you can meet your highest level of awareness through being, dedicating your life to service, and healing and helping, just being there for other people. Earth magic, right? Even like getting out into nature is really, really, really powerful for you. And during times of need, you will be drawn to this, you know, this kind of like Virgo types. And lots of like, yeah, destiny connected to animals and um and yeah, like just how when your life is organized and balanced, that's when the best things can happen. And yeah, so like during really important times in your life, people who are either Virgo, who have like Virgo in their chart, it's 13 degrees here, or strong Mercury placements, or even Ceres, um, will give you help and open up that kind of transition to new higher awareness. And then people who are Pisces will help you also in a different way. It's the anti-vertex, right? So that you'll be drawn to people whose needs and their compassion, their spirituality lead you to find these more Virgo practical healing modalities to the different dilemmas you have in your life, I guess you could say. All right. Um, yeah, power fortune, third house. Aries, that's literally just saying you're at your best when you are when speaking, from that place of courage, that place of courage and just letting it out and um being brave and just having lots of willpower when it comes to achieving your goals and not holding back. And then Sirius and Taurus, I would say just loving, really feeling cared for and being able to care for other ones by, receiving and giving stability. and also just like physical touch and all the senses being really, really amazing for you, and also nature. And it's kind of like a second moon sign, but not as important. So yeah, the fourth house is just like how important family is to you, and kind of your inner life, right? And having things in order at home and having a really comfortable home, I would say, is huge for that. So how long have I been going? Jesus fucking Christ. 2 fucking hours and 20 minutes. Insane. Okay. So I told you, okay, wow. So you have Urania rising, so that's an asteroid related to astrology. So you could literally be an astrologer or be someone who benefits from that. I teach astrology if you're ever interested. I do one-on-one classes only to only the people who are super um super motivated. Aspect wise, wow. So you have two royal stars. I mean, Fomalhaut is it's close. It's it's close to your sun. It's not like stuck on there, but that's like like a degree and 0.17 away. And Lust is on your sun, so that Lust makes someone like very it's like the sexy asteroid. A lot of times people with that they feel um more like they like they come off to other people. I'm just gonna say it. They come off by the way they look or the way they act. Just their energy comes off as like very sexual, and even if they're not sexual, so people might like think that they're like more sexual than they are. Um, so yeah, Fomalhaut is like divine inspiration. It's like so artistic, and yeah, so like it can be it can be you have to watch out for being like improperly influenced by others. But it can be super spiritual, and also it's great for inheritances, and um just I would say like yeah, just having yeah, it can just bring up a lot around, and that goes with like the Neptune energy in your chart, right? Just like the wrong types of people kind of coming in. I'm trying to find something. It's hard to find good definitions on these. Um, yeah, dissipated, easily influenced by low companions, gained through inheritance, but unproductive of good, may suffer for some crimes committed. The artist, okay, this is a better one. The artist, idealist, the need to keep one's feet on the ground while one's head in the clouds. That second one was the fucking best one. Um, so yeah, then having Antares right on your midheaven, that's one of the most important things of this full reading, which goddamn, I went fucking crazy. Um, yeah, that one is very, very important. It's super passionate, um, really good fortune, and there is, like this struggle between black and white, and there can be like this proneness to obsession, but like so much drive, right? Especially when it's like with issues of injustice and dealing with those. And yeah, like I said, Antares is the king or queen of the underworld, so it can give kind of this badass um persona, or not persona, just like the way people view you. And yeah, like I said, can bring fame and lots of very strategic ability, daredevils and mental alertness, right? Um, so yeah, very big minded. They think big and ambitious, and yeah, kind of very militant is the best way to put it. Um, anyways, so So Hecate is one of the asteroids that is linked to being a witch, and it's on your Mars, exact degree. So that's witch vibes for you. Um, Aphrodite on your Venus, so you're very beautiful. You have like all these asteroids of you have the beauty one. Aphrodite is like princess. Lust is more like sexy. So having both, I always say there's cute, sexy, beautiful, and hot. Um, so that is cool. Um, and yeah, and then you have three royal stars and Psyche on your IC. God damn. So you have three out of four royal stars because when you have Antares is opposite, they're opposite, right? So when you have Antares on your IC or your MC or your ascendant or whatever, like you're gonna have Aldebaran, right, which is another one on your I like on the opposite angle, right? So you have Aldebaran on your IC, you have Antares here, and they're like pretty much exactly opposite. So then you have Aldebaran. That one is like very, very fortunate. And how close is it though? So yeah, just it's not as strong on the IC as like on the midheaven or the ascendant, but it's like, very good for success um and just money in general. So yeah, it's a fortunate one to have for sure. And yeah, yeah. Let me see one thing, and then that will be it. And did I just beat my record again? A recent record. Let's see what's up with this one. This is not strong one. No, it's not strong. All planets, legacies, inheritance. So you have Rookbot on Venus. So inheritance, legacies, and yeah. So yeah. I mean, if I'm right, and you did have or you do have or did or whatever have an inheritance, then you know I'm emailing you right now. So yeah, let me back out of this and just take one look. So like I said, if you want to book a follow-up in transit reading, I'll give you a discount on that, and it would be live. It won't be a long wait. So yeah, it's like first hour we go over everything in the natal, and then hour two and three we jump into like what's happening now, so we can really focus. There's a lot more than just like I'm gonna give like another quick glance just because I'm a nice guy. Um, but I'm pretty fucking tired to be honest. But let's just see. I mean, yeah, I mean you've been yeah, okay, no, that doesn't matter. Um, yeah, I think it's really just Saturn, but I want to see if it might be anything else. 15 up my head. Mm-mm, no. Oh, yeah. Nah, nah. I mean, yeah, I mean Uranus is square your ascendant and descendant, so that probably coincided. I don't know when the breakup was, but that could have coincided with that. So yeah, that can be like a time of rapid change and whatnot. And Scorpio. And then yeah, I mean it was in conjunct your Mars at the same time, so um yeah, that can just kind of make things just be a little bit out of control and just spinning too fast, while you also have the Saturn energy, but that's like the main influence. Yeah, so just like you have to like face up to your responsibilities and remain calm and just like yeah, accept that this is the way it is right now, and that dealing with perfectionism and with the consequences of past events and decisions made, right? It's like we're all owning up to our karma, right? On an individual and a collective level, right? That's why you see so many celebrities like P. Diddy going through all this revealing, right? So yeah, just you're really building the building the or I guess like putting together the building blocks for your future right now. So besides that, shit, not gonna be able to order food. I need to eat that. And it's interesting that you're going to be getting this reading right basically when Sun, the day each year when Sun is conjunct your, this is a really good period for you actually. Um, like these next few days, because the Sun is going to be conjunct your Neptune and your Jupiter, especially in 3 days, will be excellent. Um, but it's interesting that like you're getting this very Neptunian reading when the transit Sun is on your Neptune. Just funny, right? Interesting. Divine timing. And then Mars will be on it too, so that will be fun, really good for you. And what was I looking for? Oh yeah. Okay, nothing. Oh yeah, okay, I'll just see. Yeah, so I would say like I mean I would have to investigate further, but um from what I see, it's mainly what's happening right now with Saturn and just like how massive an effect that has on you personally. All right, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed 2 hours 32. Holy shit. All right, talk to you later. Let me know. Actually, really quick. So usually it's like what's the price? I don't remember, but I have it on sale anyways. But if you want to do the follow up and the current, I would be willing to do that for. Let me think. Didn't even have an answer in mind. Usually it's around. Usually it's around what, like 500 and something, 530 or something like that. I'd be willing to do both together for 360. Yeah, 360, 360. So that's like a 3 hour session live, not a long, it's not like a wait list like this. It's like we just, when you're ready, we set that up and yeah. So let me know. I'll write that down that I offered you at that price. And thank you so much. Talk to you later. Hope this finds you well. Ciao.